Town of Bucksport Climate Resilience Committee will now come to order, and I thank everyone who's here for being here. I note that we have a quorum, and that's very nice. I have a short script to suggest for especially people who are not in person here. This meeting is being held in person. It can also be viewed on local cable channel 1303 or on the internet by accessing bucksportmaine.gov and selecting agendas and minutes and choosing this meeting and clicking on the video button next to the meeting. Questions or comments may be submitted during the meeting by emailing rich.rotella@bucksportmaine.gov or during the meeting by calling 307-8030. I do have a few quick announcements. We're expecting a visitor, Jana Richards. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to say hello to you before I started the meeting. Jana is from the Hancock County Planning Commission, and if I understand it correctly, she's invited here to be helpful to our service providers, whom you know, Alan and Debbie, at no cost to the town. This is supported by the Governor's Office of Policy Innovation in the Future. So welcome, thank you for coming. And I've also, for committee members of the Climate Resilience Committee who don't know it, I've been keeping the Conservation Committee in the loop because any ways in which we can cooperate or collaborate, I think, is a good thing. There had been a suggestion for having a joint meeting, but since I don't know legally how a joint meeting can work, the way we've worked it is to have the meetings either of one committee or the other, to which members of the other are invited. And I attended their last Conservation Committee meeting, and we have some of the members of the committee who are with us today as well, including those members who are on both committees. One other piece of information is that the town council authorized the gathering of information through the request for information process. They authorized, I believe they authorized both of our committees to be able to do that. And I know the Conservation Committee was interested specifically in trying to get some potential vendor pricing information, and there's now a mechanism for doing that that the council authorized. And one other quick announcement is, two other quick announcements. One is that our member Suzanne DePhillips is expecting to be here in a little over 10 minutes from now. We did have this meeting start a half hour later than usual to try to accommodate her schedule. She runs a store that closes at 5:30, and she last time called in, but this time she says she'd like to come in person, so I'm expecting her in about 10 minutes. And the other announcement is just to be aware that Alan Kratz, one of our service providers, has already made a recommendation for an addition to our proposed agenda. And since the agenda review is the next thing on our agenda, let me explain what it is that he suggested that we add. When we were meeting last year, we were focused on certain projects, and in order to be eligible for submitting applications to the Governor's Office of Policy Innovation in the Future requires that we join the community partnership program that office runs. And to do so requires a resolution passed by the town council. And we had the town council approve a resolution last year But that resolution makes reference to the projects that we were pursuing or thought we would be pursuing last year. And then we did not because we discovered the primary project was not eligible for funding. And so the recommendation is that we ask the town council to pass another resolution with updated information about what it is we actually may want to do this round. Since we don't know yet what we want to do this round, there's a little question of timing here as to how to put that into effect, but that's the added piece. And I think the place to put that would be just before identification of next steps, around 6:15 time period, because we might have a better idea of what we're doing by then. So, are there any comments, other comments on any changes for the proposed agenda? Anyone have any requested changes? Yes, Rich.
Could we hear from Jana and her role?
Surely. Jana, why don't you come up to the podium and tell us who you are and what you hope to be here for.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Jana Richards. I am the Regional Resilience Coordinator. I sit at the Hancock County Planning Commission, but I'm also part of a network of other regional resilience coordinators like myself that are scattered throughout the entire state of Maine. There are about 10 of us, and we all sit within either a regional planning organization or council of governments, depending on what type of organization serves that region. For us, it's the Hancock County Planning Commission, and we serve all of Hancock County, which is 37 communities. In Hancock County, currently all but 9 of those 37 are enrolled in the Community Resilience Partnership. This summer, hopefully there'll be 3 additional, and hopefully Bucksport will cross the bridge and also join. So my role is really to, so I'm not sure if this committee is aware, but there's a state plan called Maine Won't Wait, which is the Maine Climate Action Plan. And so, the state cannot achieve those goals if each community is not participating in trying to also reach those goals. So the idea is somebody like myself working with each community to try to reach those goals. The partnership is part of that. Obviously, there's 95, 96 different actions that can be taken that would help move the needle in achieving the goals that are identified in the Climate Action Plan. But there are also, for example, the town of Bucksport has done a coastal resiliency plan for your downtown and the riverfront. There are other communities that have done action plans and big infrastructure planning like that, that are going after potential other funding and grant sources to be able to achieve those bigger projects. So the Community Action Grant is one piece of this, but there's a host of other grants out there to help achieve infrastructure projects, emergency preparedness type projects, just kind of thinking energy efficiency type projects that might not be covered under this program, but my role is to work with you, help identify some of those other funding sources, help pursue those funding sources, and really help achieve the goals for your community, which in then would help achieve the goals of the state.
Thank you. Any questions, committee members? Any questions for Jana?
One question is,
Sure.
is your work sort of folded into your work, like it's a collaboration type? I'm just curious about how that structure works.
Yes, absolutely. Please do.
So the service provider contract is what Debbie and I are doing. It's a 1-year contract of limited duration that was set up that way. And our objective is to help you as a community do 3 things: enroll in the Community Resilience Partnership, do community engagement exercises that lead into that, and then to apply for a community action grant, using as the basis one of these 96, it was 72, now it's 96. So that's our role. Jana's role is broader and longer duration. She's not limited to 1 year. I think your tenure is 5 years. and she, as she just mentioned, works throughout Hancock County. So we work in sync with each other. And really, the agenda tonight, the reason I suggested that Jana join us is she has a broad perspective to help us focus on the very specific objective tonight, which is to focus on what you as a community group want to have as a community action grant candidate project. And then that can be part of an application that is submitted to the state by August 29th. We're only 1 month away from August. So that's the objective tonight. And that, of course, as Ralph mentioned, would be rolled into a resolution to the town council to enroll for the purpose of applying for a grant. Is that fair?
Yes, and a lot of the work that's done at the onset that Alan and Debbie help with helps identify the priorities of the community within the time that the service provider is working with you. You'll probably apply for a grant for maybe 1, 2, 3 of those priorities, but there's always these leftover, no town has one priority. There's always like 10, let's say. And so there's going to be additional work to focus in on other priority areas that aren't covered within the first year, the first 2 years. So the idea is that you can have someone working with you throughout the duration to really push forward on some of these projects. I just wanted to add too that, as you said at the beginning, there's no cost to the town. There's no contract either. So really working with me, to be able to work with me and my role, the community does have to be part of the Community Resilience Partnership. That's really the only criteria. And then from there on, it's let's just email together, let's coordinate together, let's communicate together moving forward. So
that was actually my question. Did you have a follow-up question?
No, that was
okay,
helpful,
I'm sorry.
thank you. Yeah.
How do we, so if we're working with you, how do we get in touch with you? And how often are we allowed to what's the process? So if we're working on something and we need that feedback and we need your expertise, how do we do this and who does it?
Yep, so I can provide you with my contact information, and it's at your discretion, really. So if you want to lean on me, I'm happy to provide that service. I am working with other communities, at some point I will be sort of maxed out, and I will say to you, okay, like this is what I can provide at this point in time. But for right now, I mean, this is new. We're feeling it out. I've only been in the role for 6 months. And this is going to be the first round of community action grants that I am, for round 6, that I am here for full time. We're able to provide the service myself, and then I work with the Hancock County Planning Commission, so there are other people that are into grant writing and things like that that can assist if need be.
Excellent, thank you.
So does that answer your question, Rich?
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Are there any other comments about the agenda or any other changes necessary? Seeing none, we'll declare that those are accepted. The minutes, we did not get a chance to review the minutes of either the meeting of April 8th or the meeting of May 20th. Of course, May 20th was our last meeting. I've distributed these by email. If you've had a chance to look at them, are there any changes that anyone notices necessary for the minutes of either meeting?
Not that I know of. I reviewed it twice this morning, so.
Hearing none, we'll declare the minutes accepted. Now, I've sent to you some interim recommendations. My reason for doing so was just to move some things along. We do not have to decide on recommendations. These were things that I put on paper for to prime the pump of your thinking of whether we want to. My own feeling is that in addition to trying to get to the point where we've decided on what to do and applying for grant monies, we've uncovered a variety of useful information that may be of help to the town, and we may want to pass that along. And I was beginning that process. So, does anyone have comments on the interim recommendations as to whether we want to go ahead with any of them or not?
Tracy, go first.
Yeah, I spent some time with this today and sort of, I know I'm one person, but I kind of landed at recommendation A. I think that makes sense, to have the town sort of discern with the lens of better way to with our fleet. I couldn't get behind the second recommendation B, and mostly because I went through our minutes, and most of the minutes identify things like this is not likely the route for and this is quoted from the minutes, this is not likely the route for dealing with a community emergency, and that this would only provide power generation for a couple of days for a typical home. And I didn't know where that, that recommendation doesn't land with me. And so I'm worried that it's such an expensive purchase and the value add to the town wouldn't justify that type of expense. And I'd like, if we were going to make a recommendation to the town, I'd want it to be something that I feel like the council would support, and I can't imagine them supporting something like this. I don't support it. I'm talking about specifically the truck generator, item B. So I had a concern about that, and just basically just cost of the project based on the value add to our community in this, because we had landed with community input, a strong need from residents to have a place to be when there's a weather emergency, and we agreed we needed generation, and that just didn't seem to be something we could make happen. And I don't think the truck's gonna make it happen either. So I'm a little concerned about recommending that to council, because frankly, I couldn't put any teeth behind it to support it. And then with recommendation C, I just have a question about the part that says we strongly recommend investigating an alternative publicly owned, centrally located space. And I chatted a little bit with Suzanne this morning, and I got a little bit more understanding of that. But my understanding was that it wasn't the location that was a problem, because it checked all the boxes except a generator. And so I don't know if recommending the town look for a different spot would solve for what we're trying to solve for. So I was just a little bit confused about would an alternative location for a warming cooling sensor solve what we were tackling with, which was the generator issue. Am I making any sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
and they
so-
already did look into other places.
And I looked at what Ralph had sent us. There was a link on the grid. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I've just finished my sentence. On this, I clicked on the website under warming cooling sensors that was listed, and I looked through all the guidelines. And this is really the only location that would check all of the boxes with the exception of a few. And so my concern is recommending that to the town would also be another opportunity for it to fizzle out, because we couldn't back it up with another solution. So I'm not opposed to recommending that the chair have authority to have this discussion and iron out all of those kinks. I would just want to sort of reconsider the one sentence in there that says strongly recommends the town investigate an alternative publicly owned, centrally located space. All of the other contents of that paragraph, I like the idea, Ralph, of you exploring. But those were just my concerns with it. And I chatted with Don White, who did a lot of the early sort of research into this location with the chief of police and with, I think it was probably just the chief of police and the pastor of the church. But then after talking with Suzanne this morning, I understand that there's some flexibility for other funds to come in if it's a municipally owned building. But I feel like we'd be leading the current council or future councils down a rabbit hole where there is no other building except the one we're currently using, which is the school, and we can't use that any longer. So those were my two concerns with the recommendations. Those points. That's a lot, I know.
Just to feed off of something that you said,
Well, okay, I don't really wanna spend a lot of time on this because we
Okay.
have other things we really need to do. So we can shelve the whole topic of interim recommendations, if you'd like. If any committee members think that it's important for us to go ahead this meeting with approving some recommendations, we could, but I'd just as soon move on. Any-
Could I just make a point of fact? So I've been away from the last couple of meetings and I've had a chance to read the minutes. And I remember what happened prior, and then I had a nice conversation with Jana today. I think what we're doing is we're getting into the weeds and we're trying to pick out a specific project where all I think we need to do, and again, thank you for Jana helping clarify this for me. We've recognized in here public health. We've recognized in here greenhouse gas emissions. And as Jana pointed out, we just did that coastal resilience plan. I think if we go forward and say we would like to enroll in a community resilience partnership with the focus on these 3 areas, I think that's all we need to do. Then apply for the grant gets approved, we get enrolled in the community partnership. Then we have 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, to try to get this all worked out and pick out the ideas that we want to work on in this. So whether it's the EVs, whether it's the ash borer, but in order to continue to move forward, we have to enroll in the partnership. And if we keep going back and forth over what specific item, but we can just put it underneath one of these topics.
Thank you for
So-
clarifying that.
Well, let me ask Alan then directly. The town has passed a resolution to join the partnership. Does that mean that we have joined it, or is something else?
The town is not enrolled. The town passed a resolution to hire us as service, to approach us as service providers. That's the extent. The town passed another resolution authorizing, because this committee had not come to a decision about a project we're enrolling, then we got a 6-month extension to September the 12th. And in February, I think it was February 7th, you as a council approved or appreciated the extension of the contract so that this committee then could spend up until and now it turns out it's the August 29th deadline to both enroll and submit an application for a persuasive application for a good candidate for community action grant funding.
So is what Rich just outlined of a generalized thing
So-
sufficient for enrolling?
It is.
And
But again, the enrollment resolution requires a couple of things. It requires a couple of whereas clauses. Whereas this committee has worked with the community and identified these projects, these priorities.
okay, so it does require the project identification.
But I thought it also could be a priority. So our priority is public health. So we know under public health, we want to look into a warming cooling station, and under the GoPIF grant, we can't do a generator because it's fossil fuel. However, we can do the NBRC and potentially get a grant to do fossil fuel that way. We wouldn't have to use it under GoPIF, and the funds could be used under also public health, Emerald Ash Borer, and use the funding to tackle that immediate issue. But as long as we identify 3 priorities, but it doesn't,
Those priorities need to be, excuse me, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Those priorities need to be identified on one of the 90s, was 72, now 96. That's my understanding.
Okay,
As opposed to something that's beyond or comes from another grant program, whether it's USDA or FEMA or something else. So my recommendation is that, Rich is correct, there's there's the opportunity to look for other funding beyond the service provider opportunity that Debbie and I have. Debbie and I are hoping that you will find something around which you can coalesce. So in this grant round, which has a deadline of August 29th, the town of Bucksport is both enrolled and has a persuasive proposal for review.
yes,
My understanding is this recommendation document is separate to the other work.
Yes.
So if we tabled sort of the recommendation document and just leave that alone and then sort of dig into the other work and see if we organically get to a project or something. Right?
Yes.
Am I correct in understanding?
Yes.
Okay.
the chair hereby tables the interim recommendations. That leads us then to, I'd like to gather input from the committee each member of the committee, and the input that I'm looking for is your ideas on the potential action items that are on the 95, 96 spreadsheet. And if possible, if you've had a chance to identify specific ones by letter and number, Alan has a few extra copies.
Here are a few for everybody, but Rich has hopefully put them up on the screen for those of you who can see the screen.
So may I say something? Well,
Yes.
cause we do this, I think, a lot. Like, I think Rich made a really good point that we keep going back and forth. So I just wanna understand, cause I thought we were moving in a couple of different directions. I know the recommendations are being shelved. So what we're I just wanna understand, we're looking at this and identifying which areas that we're going to kind of focus on, whether it's public safety, whether it's, okay. Cause we know we have a few of those ideas, including the emerald ash borer, already identified. We know that other parts of the town or other committees are working it, and the collaboration would be good. So we're shelving the recommendations, now we're just looking for what we're gonna submit and then focus on what fits into that category.
Yes, so what I'm going to do now is poll all the members of the committee for which of these 95, 96 things are of particular interest to them, and what they looked at is possible or likely things of interest to. In other words, I don't want to talk about 95 or 96 things. I'd like to talk about methodology fewer. So, I guess Tracy.
Are you calling for a poll now?
Yes.
Or- So I've kind of landed,
I've
I've landed on 4 as well as the ash borer one, and I'm not sure, I think the ash borer piece, when I checked the minutes last time, I think it has a different number now, so I'm not sure where it lives in this document, but it's in here somewhere.
Look at there, Rich knows.
Yeah, so the emerald ash borer, whatever that is identified as, is one of them.
That's E5.
E5, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So C1 and my rationale behind this, C1 and C5 and yeah, C1, C5. So C1 is an energy coach program for low income residents. C5 is education and communication, and I think the reason I'm leaning into that, I think we'll be more successful with getting these types of things through council if we have some education behind it. I think that's missing. We're asking to get to this destination sort of without the backfill of it. And then I don't need to give a reason for all of them, I guess, I apologize. E14, mostly because there's been a demonstrated interest in the community for a community garden. I know we do the farmers market, but I think council has had that on their agenda a few times over the years, that the community is really looking to do a community garden. I would love that to be considered, and that's E14.
And E15.
You have, okay, I see, I'm sure I'll learn more about this as I suggest. And then F25, and I can't remember what F25.
Peer-to-peer check-in program.
Peer-to-peer check-in, and the reason I focus so much on the Fs really is because we did that public community input session, and there was a lot of sort of just organic sort of need from the community to have support and knowing what's going on, how to address all of these things. And I think if we have to submit an application and the question is, how did you build the case for this project? We built it through those community listening sessions, and I think that would be a strong piece of the application if we decided to do some of the Fs that I highlighted, the F25. So those are my suggestions.
Great.
Peer-to-peer check, oh, and yeah, I wrote F25 twice, sorry. So those are my suggestions, and that's sort of my rationale for competitive.
Thank you. Who would like to go next?
I believe I have something. A2, transition to a municipal EV fleet, like let's say electric lawnmower, possibly an electric, like the little tractor that goes onto the water pump. What is it called? The gator? Not the gator, but
The mule.
the mule. Okay, but something electric. It would be quieter, much more efficient. And then is there an what is it called? I'm trying to think of what it's called. The is it anti-idle? That's what it's called. I don't know if that was on there or not, or
I didn't see anti-idling specifically.
okay.
It's A5.
A5? Okay, A5, alright. So, A5. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Emily?
Yeah, I think that the things in area F in general kind of align with a lot that we've talked about. But F1 it's not new. It was there before, and I still feel like, I know we talked about it in the past, conducting a vulnerability assessment. I think that could be really beneficial given when we were having meetings and people coming and talking to us in this information gathering. What stood out for many of us was the concern that many individuals in managing these emergencies don't feel that vulnerable populations exist. So I really feel like a vulnerability assessment could help show and improve that issue. Show that, it does exist and why this is an important focus.
Anything else? Peter? Any things in specific?
I thought the C5 was also good. Advancing clean energy and efficiency. And I don't know what the status of the energy use of our public buildings is, if that's something that would be beneficial to have like B1 or B2.
Right. Just very quickly, I do know that the outgoing town manager listed a number of accomplishments over the past 10 years, which included a variety of things like lighting retrofits in the town buildings and so forth. So some of that work I know has been done. But yes, anything else in particular?
Not sure what it would fall under, but there may be an opportunity where our power, we're on the end of the power grid for CMP. So if this our Bucksport feeds out to Orland, Penobscot, Castine, a bunch of other towns. So when we reached the point where the power transformer that feeds this area is not big enough, looking into alternatives such as better load management instead of paying many millions of dollars to just replace the transformer and put a bigger one in.
Okay. Chris, you have ideas?
I'm with Emily on the F series, but specifically F7, which I think I've tried to bring this before the council in past years and was summarily told it wasn't gonna. They have a plan in place, but the plan is sort of like not available for the public, which I find absurd, and I've mentioned that in these committee meetings before, that I really think One of the problems we have in this town with this kind of attitude is everybody talks about what's going on in the village. There's a lot of us that don't live in the village. When we talk about the cooling centers in Bucksville, that's great, but people are gonna be coming in from all around town. There's a view that the village is really important, which it is. But overall, an overall plan for the entire town is gonna be really important forward with a lot of pieces. So that's one I'm really interested in.
That's F7, Chris?
That's correct, that's what I'm focusing on, yes.
Suzanne?
Yeah, I can actually agree with Chris on F7. I'm all for public safety and cooling, the cooling and also community notifications. Of course, I'm also for E5 for being able to identify ML-4. I think that's something that's happening right now, and we do have a project that we're working on, and I think it's a collaboration that we should all be working together on some level. I also, the community garden, I think that's very important, scarcity, and I think we need to identify those vulnerable populations. So maybe the F series are also, we can fit into, I can agree also with Emily, and so those are for me my top ones, to make sure. And I'm not of the thinking that just because it didn't work before that it can't work now. So I think that we have to take what we've learned in the past, even presenting to council, but we have to identify what changes have been made or in our community, and also because we change constantly. So I don't think we should allow past, I don't want to say failures, but not being able to cross that finish line stop us from moving forward on any of these, because our community has changed, our climate has changed, what we have in front of us. Even these options, they changed. They went from what you said 72 to 96, so everything's changing. So that's my point.
Okay, good. Rich, do you have any particular? Oh. I myself had identified 5, C1, C5, D5, which is high school technical education programming, E12, and which is the waste diversion, that would be the recycling and no recycling, or F25, which had been mentioned before, the peer-to-peer. C1 and C5 were the energy coaching and the education and communication programming. I thank you very much for identifying those things that are of interest. I think that helps narrow us down very considerably. It doesn't mean that we would not give some consideration to something else if it came up, but I'm much happier being able to focus my attention on half a dozen to a dozen. Yes, Alan?
I wonder if I might reflect, this is the 5th grant round I've been through, and I might just offer my perspective on what I've heard here, if that would be helpful.
Yes.
So I think the 3 lenses, 3 filters, or 3 ways of looking at things that all are important. First of all, which is the project that's most beneficial to most members of the community, and particularly those who are first and worst affected by climate change and last and least to be assisted. So I think that's the primary filter. Second one is, what is a project that town council, as the stewards of the public trust, will believe is a sustainable project that has tangible results that really make a difference in people's lives. And then the third item, or the third characteristic, is what is likely to, for all of your effort, likely to be funded. What offers the best prospects of success. So I think that's how I look at projects, as I've been through this now 5 times. I've actually put in proposals that have been rejected, so I'm learning as these things go forward. I think what I'm hearing that I think would really align with what I've just said are C1 and F1. The energy coaching, I hope I'm using the correct numbers here. I'm talking about the energy coaching prospect. And the reason I mention that is that that really does reach people across the whole spectrum. The state has offered incentives for helping people who live in trailers and learning how to do energy coaching in that area. There's a very successful program that Brooklyn is doing. I know that people in Brooklyn would be delighted to come and work with you and talk with you. And if we have a summer intern in Brooklyn, they'd be delighted to come and talk with you of how that could happen here in Bucksport. And again, it really crosses the entire demographic spectrum. And the Fs are also very important. Doing a climate vulnerability assessment is something that, again, reaches everybody in the community. It's a great opportunity to take stock of where things are going, what new things are happening. 3 towns to the eastern part of Hancock County have done that, and they now have, one of them, Surrey, is using their climate vulnerability assessment as the basis for getting congressionally directed spending. So there's, go ahead, I apologize, go ahead.
Yes.
And the planning, Jana, is it?
I'm sorry?
You may help
Jana
answer this.
Richards, yes.
Does the climate plan that we did with sort of, I know I'm not describing it correctly.
Coastal resiliency.
Is that the same as a vulnerability assessment? It seems like it has the same components, that's all.
So it's very specific to your downtown Riverwalk.
Okay,
If I'm in the waterfront.
Yeah.
that helps. Alright.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great start. But vulnerability can be many things, and like vulnerability for community members that might need extra assistance, as Alan has been speaking of, is a different.
Okay.
So you have vulnerable infrastructure, but then there's vulnerable populations as well.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks. I needed that clarity to understand that.
And the vulnerability, and I'm glad Janice said that, can be social vulnerability. The towns of Surrey, Castine, Brooklyn, and Sedgwick now have been funded to do a social vulnerability assessment. So vulnerability can be written large. So those are my perspectives and what I think. I think you're coalescing, or it seems to me you're dealing with that. And I just want to add on to the Emerald Ash Borer, and I sent an email to Ralph about this, and Chris and Suzanne and members of the Conservation Committee, probably very interested in this as well. I talked with Ashley Krulik, who works in the governor's office, about a specific proposal that would focus on Emerald Ash Borer, and she told me that that would qualify, but they're really looking at projects that look at the whole range of invasives, whether it's insects, plants. That would be a project that would compete well only if it were part of a broader project, not simply Emerald Ash Borer.
Can I add to this? I did get a price, a general idea from one person, and it was honestly only $8,000.
To do what?
For an inventory for ash trees. This was given to them the acreage, with the understanding that, we're not looking at the entire acreage, we're looking at paths within it, or, a boundary or whatnot. And they need further information to narrow it down, but that's the vague area we're looking at. And so adding other things with it, there would most certainly be room financially in the scope of the grant.
I have a question,
Yes.
in terms of the grant and what you just said, because when we were considering the management plan, it was getting the assessment, we needed that information, so thank you for getting at least some sort of idea. I was working on the request for information to send out, but part of the project or the plan is to mitigate, right? So we need the assessment to start with, so we needed an idea of how much it would just be to assess, so then we can determine the cost of mitigation if we have to remove trees or if we have to treat trees. But what you're saying is the grant is roughly how much? It's
75,000 up to 75.
Yeah, so that possibly we could add other things to it as well, other components to it. But also there's that other component of, the whole project. It's doing the assessment and then mitigating and addressing the needs of the community.
Yeah, I mean, the concern of mitigating was not covered under one of the lists of actions, but in addition, I'm a little concerned about the fact that the majority means removal of trees, and that would not necessarily be favorable for grant money.
I also
Now,
feel
for a
like
per-
it's, I don't think it's a little risky to create a project to fit a grant program. The Emerald Ash Borer will sort of organically come to through a process of community input, as well as sort of these other things. I would be scared to add other species or infestations or I'm not sure how to describe it, but to add more to the Emerald Ash Borer. I mean, I clearly
I
don't know how to say this well, but I think that would be risky to just start adding other sort of invasive species for a grant without having a process to get to, do we even have that species in Bucks? I think it would be a little bit hard to be competitive just by doing that. I'm not sure.
My perception is that that's an idea that is still ripening, to use a word, and it's not, there's more work that needs to be done, and that might well fit into a grant beyond and outside of the Community Action Grant. There may be other sources of funding that Janet can help you with beyond August 29th. I think that would be an opportunity for more thinking and not trying to create something that fits into a box. That's my perception.
Yes, Linda.
Can I just mention really quickly that some things that could be added that would stay within the scope would be some of the ideas that other towns are doing to address the EAB. There's banding, there is injecting some trees that you might really want to keep, say near a library or a playground, this kind of thing. So those costs would actually be under the same umbrella, stick to the same problem, but would be added in cost-wise to what you're describing.
If I may, I think what we're really looking at here is we have a timeline of August 29th. And we have 4 town council meetings to come up with a resolution, or we no longer have a service provider. And I'm not saying that none of these, or the Emerald Ash Borer, by the time you get requests for information for proposal, and then this committee meets again, and then the time the council meets, I think we're gonna be past August 29th. Just in my knowing of how these work. So, again, I would just say we should get out of the weeds and really focus and get there, because we're not gonna be able to have this for the July 10th town council meeting, so now that leaves us 3 meetings.
Yeah, the town council schedule is, if I understand it correctly, July 10th and then July 24th.
August 14th and August 28th.
August 14th and 28th.
So Rich, what you're recommending is that we kind of make a decision, because I don't disagree. We make a decision on, because we all kind of went around the room and made, there was consensus on several items. So maybe that's what we need to identify on those items that we were all agreeing on. And then from that, narrow it down and let's make a decision. When we leave the meetings, we're leaving the meeting. So this is our opportunity to communicate, make the decision and move forward. So with what Rich has made the point of, which is a really valid point, I think we just need to, and I don't know if you keep in your minutes, were you able to notes? Because everybody was talking fast.
He keeps very good minutes.
And I couldn't hear everybody, but I get it kind of a general.
Sure, there are, I was taking notes of what people were mentioning around the table. And it certainly distills easily to 10 or less, and I think it distills fairly well to a few. And we could assemble that if the committee thought it knew enough at the moment to want to choose that direction now, we could. If you would like to schedule another meeting in the near term in order to gather some more information about those few items that we've narrowed it down to already, we could do it that way.
What were the few?
Okay, certainly C1, the energy coaching program, like it might be modeled similarly to Brooklyn's program. It was clearly one. The F1 and 3, the vulnerability assessments, either for infrastructure or the populations, certainly came out. The F25, the peer-to-peer check-in. And then the warming cooling station question that still sort of lingers in a sense. I'm happy to be more complete in identifying these things, and we can communicate that by email, but yes, Alan?
I have a process suggestion. I think that this has been very helpful. It's been a very interesting distillation of thoughts. It might be useful for you, and Debbie and I can work with you on a draft resolution for the council that synopsizes all of this for you to then circulate to the committee for their review. And then you could get on the council agenda. I think there's a meeting next Tuesday and then the one following 2 weeks after that, or
It
Next-
would have to be on
next
the
Thursday.
agenda tomorrow to get onto
Right,
the.
that's what I'm saying.
Be the one after.
It'd be about the 24th.
The 24th of July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, which is less than a month from the application deadline. So if that's a helpful suggestion, I think you and Debbie and I could come together on a draft resolution that would capture what's been said tonight. And then you could circulate it to the committee, and I don't know if you vote by email or you want to have another meeting.
It has to be in person.
So we'll have another meeting before the agenda is needed for the 24th of July.
I'm sorry.
I will be out of state
Okay.
after next week, and so I plan my vacations between council
Of
meetings,
course.
unfortunately.
That makes sense.
So am I able to sort of give input? But I have to be here in person, I guess.
You can be on the phone. mean,
I
if
could-
you wanna
I
be
could-
on-
I'm not doing that from where I'm gonna be. I can't do that.
But you'll find a way of providing input.
I can, I could even give my input tonight what I would choose, but that's my top.
So that's my process suggestion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, let me ask this question, Rich. To get on the agenda for the July 24th meeting requires something given to
Jacob.
Jacob by what date?
By July 17th.
July 17th is a Thursday,
It's the Thursday before.
and so here's the question is, would committee members like to aim for a meeting on Tuesday, July 15th?
Sounds good.
2 weeks from tonight, for example, if the space is available.
That's fine, and that's with the idea that a proposal will be drafted.
Right.
Yep.
You will have it well before the meeting so you can discuss it.
Great, and that could be sent to you as well, so you can.
Yeah, I won't vote, but I can give my input,
Yeah.
for sure, yeah, you'll have a quorum opportunity with or without me anyway, so it won't hold the process up.
You can't cancel.
I'm a
your
fan
vac-
of C1,
can't
just I
cancel
wanna
your
know that
vacation.
C1 is my favorite.
You can't cancel your vacation.
I can't, and we gotta get
So-
going, cause there's another meeting
I know.
coming up, so, but I'd like to.
So, moving right along then, we've picked a date as the 15th for our next meeting at
Okay.
the same time, same place. And let me then quickly ask if anyone has a comment to evaluate the meeting, whether things that worked well, things that did not work well for tonight's meeting.
Okay, it worked for me.
Thank you for that. And the reason I do meeting evaluations is just because it does help us all focus on what makes a meeting work well and how we can improve, all of us can improve our skills at meetings. So any other comments on tonight's meeting? Are there any things that we need to do before we adjourn the meeting? No last minute comments? Yes, Peter.
It's always a good sign when everyone in the committee has talked during the meeting, so that's good.
Thank you.
Very nice. It was a happy note to finish on.
Yeah, I know, right?
Okay, I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.